Hi dear, welcome to your favorite audiobook channel Wisdom Flicks. Critical Thinking Mastery. Transform your mindset for ultimate personal growth. Introduction. The dream of 1 hour freedom. Imagine this. You wake up, make your coffee, glance out the window, and sit down in front of your computer. You're not rushing into traffic. You're not preparing for a draining 9 to 5 job. Instead, you spend one focused hour analyzing the markets, placing your trade, and walking away. The rest of the day is yours, to travel, to spend with family, to build other projects, or simply to relax. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, what if I told you that dream is entirely possible? Not just for professional hedge fund managers, but for everyday people. Yes, people just like you, who learn how to trade smartly, consistently, and with purpose. Welcome to 1 Hour. Trade Mastery. A practical, streamlined system that empowers you to earn income through trading while reclaiming your time and mental freedom. This is not about gambling on the stock market. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And this is certainly not a flashy lifestyle pitch. This book is about building a repeatable system, one that allows you to spend just 60 focused minutes a day analyzing, executing, and reviewing trades that are rooted in logic, structure, and risk management. It's the strategy that changed the life of Brian P. Anderson, an everyday guy who found himself drowning in debt, overworked, and burnout from years of trying and failing in the markets. He didn't have thousands to lose. He didn't have a Wall Street education. But what he had was persistence, and the realization that to win, he didn't need more time. He needed a better system. That's where the 1 Hour trade was born. The problem with most traders, let's be honest, most people who try trading fail. Not because they're not smart, not because they're not capable, but because they're doing it all wrong. They chase signals. They overtrade. They get emotional. They think more screen time means better results. But trading isn't about grinding all day long. It's about learning to see the market clearly, finding one solid opportunity, and managing it with discipline and consistency. And that's where the beauty of the 1 Hour trade lies. It strips away the noise and shows you exactly how to choose the right stock, enter at the right time, manage risk the right way, exit confidently, win or lose, and then walk away for the day. It's not just a strategy. It's a lifestyle. Why this book? Why now? With the rise of remote work, market accessibility, and powerful trading tools, there has never been a better time to become a self-directed trader. But here's the thing. Information is everywhere. Strategies, gurus, indicators, fancy platforms. What's missing for most people is clarity and direction. That's why I wrote this book. Not to impress you with technical jargon, but to walk beside you as a trading mentor, giving you the exact blueprint to go from confused to confident in just 1 hour a day. Whether you're brand new to trading, someone who's lost money and wants to try again, this time smarter, or even a part-time trader looking for structure and simplicity, this book is for you. I'll take you step by step through the process, from selecting your stocks to entering trades, to protecting your capital and growing your confidence, all in a way that's practical, understandable, and easy to implement. 3 o'clock. What you can expect by the end of this book. You will white heavy checkmark understand what makes the 1 Hour trade so effective. White heavy checkmark learn how to find and evaluate high probability setups. White heavy checkmark master entry and exit rules that keep emotions out of your trading. White heavy checkmark apply a risk management strategy that protects your capital. White heavy checkmark develop a daily routine that keeps you focused and efficient. White heavy checkmark build the mindset of a consistent trader who doesn't rely on luck. White heavy checkmark, and most importantly, white heavy checkmark trade for just 1 hour a day. Then go live your life. That you'll find charts explained in simple language, examples that make complex ideas feel obvious, and guidance that feels like a conversation, not a lecture. This book is written with the voice of someone who wants you to win. Not hype, not hope, just high-performance habits for real-world traders. 1 hour, one trade, one life. The 1 Hour trade isn't just about making money. It's about freedom. It's about control over your time, your income, and your future. It's about proving that you don't have to choose between success and sanity. You can have both. You just need a system that works and the discipline to follow it.so. Whether you're listening in your car, on your walk, or while planning your next step in life, know this: you are 1 hour away from changing your financial future. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Why critical thinking is the ultimate superpower. Imagine having a skill that improves every area of your life. One that helps you make smarter decisions, solve problems faster, communicate more clearly, avoid manipulation, and see the truth when others are lost in confusion. That's not a fantasy. It's the power of critical thinking. In a world where information is abundant but wisdom is scarce, critical thinking has become a superpower. And like all great powers, it's not inherited. It's earned. Let's explore why this skill is not just useful, but transformational. The superpower no one talks about. Society often praises intelligence, charm, creativity, or leadership. But without critical thinking, even those traits can become liabilities. Intelligence without direction can lead to arrogance. Creativity without clarity can become chaos. Leadership without reflection can turn dangerous. Critical thinking is the foundation underneath all other strengths. It's the ability to stop, assess, and choose the best path forward, especially when things get complicated, emotional, or uncertain. When you develop critical thinking, you stop being a passive consumer of life. You become an active creator of your own reality. Critical thinking versus regular thinking. Let's get something straight. Everyone thinks, but not everyone thinks critically. Most people operate on autopilot. They absorb beliefs from family, media, school, and peers. They accept opinions as facts, react emotionally, and make choices based on comfort rather than clarity. Critical thinking is different. It's not just thinking more, it's thinking better. It's structured, intentional, and self-aware. It asks, is this idea true, or does it just feel familiar? Am I seeing the whole picture, or just the part that supports what I already believe? What are the consequences of this choice? Not just now, but long term. What assumptions am I making that might be wrong? Critical thinkers are not perfect, but they pause before reacting. They reflect before deciding. They question before believing. And that pause is where the power lies. Why the world rewards fast, not smart in today's culture. Speed often wins. Quick headlines, fast opinions, instant gratification. But while the world rushes to react, the critical thinker slows down to understand. That person becomes the voice of reason in a room full of noise. The one who doesn't fall for scams. The one who makes decisions with confidence. The one who sees what others miss. Think of the most admired people, great leaders, inventors, investors, writers. What sets them apart is not just what they know, but how they think. They connect the dots. They ask questions others overlook. They consider multiple perspectives. They aren't easily fooled by trends or manipulated by emotion. This is critical thinking in action, and it's the reason their ideas shape the world. The hidden cost of not thinking critically. Now, let's flip the coin. What happens when we don't think critically? We make poor financial decisions. We stay in toxic relationships. We believe false information. We get easily offended. We follow crowds that don't lead anywhere. We build lives on assumptions that were never true in the first place. Lack of critical thinking leads to confusion, regret, and stagnation. It keeps people stuck, spinning their wheels, repeating the same patterns. But here's the most dangerous part. People often don't even realize it's happening. They confuse their own feelings with facts. They assume their perspective is the truth. They mistake familiarity for wisdom. Without critical thinking, you become vulnerable, not just to outside influences, but to the blind spots within your own mind. Critical thinking creates mental freedom. If there's one thing critical thinking gives you above all else, it's freedom. Freedom from manipulation. Freedom from emotional traps. Freedom from the pressure to conform. Freedom from mental laziness. When you learn to think critically, you stop outsourcing your decisions to others. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it with clarity. You choose your beliefs, your values, your path, on purpose. This is mental independence. And once you taste it, there's no going back. That it's not just for academics. It's for everyone. Some people think critical thinking is reserved for scholars, scientists, or philosophers. That couldn't be further from the truth. Critical thinking is for the entrepreneur choosing between two risky opportunities, the parent deciding how to guide their child through a difficult moment, the student evaluating what career they truly want, not what society tells them, the individual questioning a belief that no longer serves them, the professional dealing with workplace politics or ethical decisions, the partner navigating conflict. In a relationship, in other words, it's for you. Right now, wherever you are, the chain reaction of better thinking, here's where it gets exciting. When you start thinking critically, other things begin to change, almost automatically. Your confidence grows because your decisions are thoughtful, not random. Your communication improves because you listen to understand, not to win. Your relationships deepen because you approach people with empathy and insight. Your goals become clearer because you stop chasing what doesn't matter. Your mental health stabilizes because you know how to challenge your thoughts, not drown in them. This is why critical thinking isn't just another skill. It's a master key, one that unlocks the door to personal growth in every area of life. You can learn this skill. No matter where you start, let's end this chapter with a powerful truth. Critical thinking is not something you're born with. It's something you build, and the fact that you're listening to this book means you're already on that path. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need a degree in philosophy. You don't need years of training. What you need is curiosity, humility, and practice. That's what this audiobook will help you do, step by step, idea by idea, thought by thought. You'll learn how to think in a way that sharpens your clarity, strengthens your decisions, and transforms the way you experience the world. Because once you master your thinking, you change everything. Now let's move forward and dive deeper into how your brain actually works and how you can start taking control of it from the inside out. Chapter 2: How Your Brain Really Thinks and Why It Matters. Understanding how your brain actually works is like discovering the user manual for the most powerful tool you'll ever own. You see, before you can master your thinking, you need to understand what's happening behind the scenes, how your brain forms thoughts, makes decisions, and even fools itself without your permission. This chapter isn't about biology or neuroscience for experts. It's about helping you understand your mind in a way that gives you power over it. Because the truth is, you can't win a game if you don't know the rules. And when it comes to critical thinking, the game starts inside your brain, the brain's primary job, survival, not truth. Let's begin with a sobering realization. Your brain's first job is not to find the truth. It's to keep you alive. For thousands of years, your brain evolved to react quickly to danger, conserve energy, and prioritize safety over accuracy. In the wild, speed was more important than precision. If you heard rustling in the bushes, it didn't matter whether it was a lion or just the wind, you ran. That instinct might have saved your ancestors' lives. But in the modern world, that same brain is still reacting to perceived threats, not lions anymore, but criticism, disagreement, uncertainty, and change. Your brain defaults to fear and reaction, even when it's not helpful. This is where critical thinking comes in. It allows you to override the survival autopilot and replace it with intentional thought. System 1 versus System 2 thinking. One of the most powerful models for understanding how your brain works comes from psychologist Daniel Kahneman. He describes the brain as having two systems. System 1 is fast, automatic, emotional, and intuitive. System 2 is slow, deliberate, logical, and effortful. System 1 helps you recognize faces, complete simple tasks, or react quickly to sudden danger. It's your reflexive brain. System 2 kicks in when you solve a math problem, evaluate a tough decision, or challenge your own assumptions. It's your reasoning brain. Here's the catch. Your brain prefers System 1. It's easier. It burns less energy. It feels more natural. But System 1 is also prone to bias, error, and oversimplification. That's why we jump to conclusions, misjudge people, and hold on to beliefs long after they've stopped being useful. Critical thinking is essentially the process of choosing System 2, even when it's uncomfortable, the illusion of certainty. One of the most dangerous things your brain does is confuse familiarity with truth. The more often you hear something, the more likely you are to believe it, even if it's completely false. This is why repetition is such a powerful tool in advertising, politics, and social media. It's also why people cling to certain beliefs they've heard their entire lives, even when presented with evidence to the contrary. Your brain doesn't ask, "Is this true?" It often just asks, "Have I heard this before?" Critical thinking helps you challenge that pattern. It allows you to break free from the illusion of certainty and start seeking accuracy instead. Cognitive biases. Your mind's built-in shortcuts. Your brain is full of mental shortcuts, known as cognitive biases. These are patterns of thinking, that help you make quick decisions, but often at the cost of truth. Let's look at a few common ones. Confirmation bias. You look for information that supports what you already believe and ignore the rest. Anchoring bias. You rely too heavily on the first piece of information you receive. Availability heuristic. You judge something as more likely if it's easier to recall, like thinking plane crashes are common just because you saw one on the news. Sunk cost fallacy. You continue investing in something just because you've already invested a lot, even when it's no longer wise. Groupthink. You go along with the group to avoid conflict. Even if you disagree, these shortcuts are not signs of stupidity. They're signs of humanity. Everyone has them, but critical thinkers are aware of them. And that awareness creates space for better decisions. Emotion. The silent influencer. You might think you're a logical person, but the truth is, emotions are involved in nearly every decision you make. Emotion colors how you interpret facts. It shapes what you remember, what you value, and what you fear. This doesn't mean emotion is bad. It means it must be acknowledged. People who ignore their emotions tend to be controlled by them without realizing it. But those who become aware of their emotions gain the ability to think through them rather than from them. Emotional intelligence and critical thinking go hand in hand. You must understand your feelings so they don't hijack your thinking. Thinking is energy intensive, and your brain avoids it. Thinking deeply is hard work. And your brain doesn't like hard work unless it's necessary. This is why we often default to routine, habit, and mental laziness. The brain is trying to conserve energy. It wants to do what's familiar, not what's best. But here's the opportunity. If you train your brain to think more deeply, even in small, daily ways, it begins to get stronger, just like a muscle. The more you challenge your thoughts, the easier it becomes to do so. You build mental stamina. You get used to slowing down and reflecting, instead of rushing through decisions or avoiding discomfort. This is what separates people who coast through life from those who truly grow. How awareness changes everything. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware. Awareness is the first step toward mastery. When you notice your mind jumping to a conclusion, or getting emotional, or relying on a mental shortcut, you create a moment of choice. That moment is everything. It's the space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you can change the entire outcome. Critical thinkers are not born. They are made, moment by moment, choice by choice. Practical reflection. Here are a few questions to start observing your mind more closely. When I make quick decisions, am I using logic or just comfort? What beliefs do I hold that I've never actually questioned? Do I feel more comfortable with familiar ideas, even if they may not be true? What emotions tend to influence my thinking the most? Fear, pride, anger? Am I willing to be wrong? If it means discovering something better, ask these questions often. They won't just help you think, they'll help you grow. Why this chapter matters. Until you understand how your brain really thinks, you can't truly master it. But now you have an edge. You know your brain's default settings. You know how it reacts under pressure. You know the traps it can fall into. And with that knowledge, you're already further ahead than most people. From here, the journey becomes about developing the habits, tools, and perspectives to use your mind, not just to survive, but to thrive. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how to shift your mindset from automatic reactions to intentional reasoning, and why that shift might be the most important transformation of your life. Are you ready to take control? Let's continue. Chapter 3. The Mindset Shift. From reacting to reasoning, there is a quiet but powerful transformation that separates those who drift through life from those who shape it with intention. It's not about talent. It's not about resources. It's not even about intelligence. It's about a mindset shift, a shift from reacting to reasoning. This one shift, when practiced consistently, can dramatically change the quality of your thoughts, your decisions, and ultimately, your life. In this chapter, we'll explore what it means to live reactively, why it's so common, and how to intentionally move into a mindset of conscious, reasoned response. What does it mean to react? A reaction is automatic. It's fast, emotional, and instinctive. You feel a certain way, and you act on it. Reactions often arise from deeply ingrained patterns, formed over years of experience, beliefs, and emotional memory. They're your brain's attempt to protect you, to simplify choices, or to avoid discomfort. But there's a problem. Reactions don't ask if something is true. They don't ask if something is helpful. They just happen. Let's say someone criticizes you. Your instinctive reaction might be to defend yourself, shut down, or retaliate. But what if their feedback could have helped you grow? What if the comment revealed more about them than about you? Without reasoning, that insight is lost. All you're left with is the emotional aftermath. What does it mean to reason? Reasoning is different. It's intentional. It requires awareness, time, and thought. When you reason, you pause. You step back. You examine what's really going on before you choose how to respond. A reason mindset asks, what exactly am I reacting to? Why does this trigger me? What is the most constructive response I can give? What outcome do I want from this situation? What evidence supports my current belief? Reasoning gives you power. It creates space between the situation and your response. In that space, growth begins. The cost of living reactively. Most people live in reaction mode. They react to the news. They react to emotions. They react to other people's words, opinions, and expectations. And the result? Their lives become a series of unexamined choices, driven more by fear or habit than by clarity. When you live reactively, you make decisions you later regret. You get stuck in emotional loops. You fall into patterns of self-sabotage. You give away your power to anyone who can provoke a response from you. Reactivity keeps you locked in short-term thinking. Reasoning opens the door to long-term growth. The power of the pause here is one of the most transformative tools in critical thinking. The pause.it sounds simple, but don't underestimate it. The pause is the moment you interrupt your autopilot. It's the space between trigger and action, between emotion and decision, between stimulus and response. That space is where freedom lives. When you pause, you give your mind a chance to engage reasoning. You shift from being a puppet of your emotions to the director of your choices. Imagine if every time you felt anger, fear, doubt, or pressure, you paused, breathed, and asked, what's really going on here? How many arguments would be avoided? How many better decisions would be made? How much more peace would you feel? This is not a weakness. It's a sign of mental strength. Pausing doesn't mean hesitating in fear. It means stepping into clarity. Emotional triggers, your most valuable clues. Let's be clear, emotions aren't the enemy. They're information. They show you what you value, what you fear, what you need to heal, and what matters to you. But when you react blindly to your emotions, you miss the lesson they offer. Every strong reaction is a signal. It says, something important is happening. Here, pay attention. Instead of resisting or obeying your emotions, question them. Ask, why am I feeling this so strongly? What belief is being challenged right now? Is this feeling based on facts or on past experiences I haven't examined? Emotional intelligence is not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to understand your emotions without being controlled by them. Critical thinking thrives on this awareness. From fixed to flexible thinking, reactive people tend to operate with fixed mindsets. They resist change. They seek certainty. They defend their beliefs at all costs. Reasoned thinkers are more flexible. They seek understanding. They're open to being wrong. They revise their thinking as new evidence appears. A reasoned mindset allows you to say, I believed this before, but now I've learned something new. That flexibility isn't weakness. It's growth. It shows confidence, humility, and the courage to evolve. Creating a new default. Here's the challenge. Reactivity feels natural. Reasoning takes effort, but like any habit, it gets easier with practice. You can create a new default by practicing mindfulness. Train yourself to become aware of your internal state before acting on it. Reflecting daily. Ask yourself, where did I react today, and what could I have done differently? Slowing your decisions, especially the important ones. Give yourself permission to take time. Using triggers as cues. The moment you feel a surge of emotion, treat it as a signal to pause and think. With repetition, this becomes second nature. You start to notice when you're about to react, and you choose to respond instead. From control to mastery, this chapter isn't about becoming emotionless or cold. It's about becoming responsible for your thinking. It's about owning your responses, rather than outsourcing them to old habits, fears, or other people. When you make the shift from reacting to reasoning, you become harder to manipulate. You gain deeper insight into yourself and others. You make decisions that align with your values, not your impulses. You grow. consistently, deliberately, and confidently. This is the beginning of mastery. A challenge to practice for the next 24 hours. Take on this challenge. Every time you feel an emotional pull, whether it's annoyance, excitement, anger, anxiety, or urgency, pause just for a moment. Ask, am I about to react, or am I choosing to respond? Then respond with intention. The more often you do this, the more control you gain over your own mind. And in mastering your mind, you take the first step toward mastering your life. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the most common mental traps and cognitive biases that quietly influence your thinking and how to break free from them. Your reasoning journey is just beginning. Let's keep going. Chapter 4. Spotting biases and breaking free from mental traps. One of the most important and humbling steps in mastering critical thinking is realizing this. You are biased. We all are, and that's not an insult. It's a fact. Our brains come preloaded with shortcuts, assumptions, and habits of thought that shape how we see the world. These are called cognitive biases, and they influence how we make decisions, judge people, remember events, and even form our identities. Left unchecked, these biases quietly sabotage our thinking. They trap us in limited perspectives, distort reality, and prevent us from growing. But once we spot them, once we see these hidden patterns at work, we can begin to free ourselves. In this chapter, we'll uncover the most common mental traps, show you how to recognize them in daily life, and offer strategies to escape them. Why your brain loves shortcuts. Let's start with the why. Your brain processes millions of pieces of information every second. To handle this overload, it uses shortcuts, quick ways to make sense of the world without burning energy on deep analysis every time. These shortcuts often work well. They help you drive a car, hold a conversation, or make a grocery list without overthinking. But when it comes to complex decisions, emotions, or beliefs, these shortcuts backfire. They can lead to flawed thinking, misjudgments, and poor outcomes, all while feeling correct. Critical thinking doesn't mean you eliminate every bias. It means you become aware of them and develop strategies to think beyond them. The most common cognitive biases. Let's explore some of the most common and dangerous biases that distort thinking. Point 1. Confirmation bias. You search for, interpret, and recall information that confirms your existing beliefs, while ignoring or dismissing anything that challenges them. Example, you believe a certain diet is the best, so you only read articles that support it and ignore scientific studies that contradict it. Why it matters? It keeps you stuck. You're not seeking truth, you're seeking agreement. How to break it? Deliberately expose yourself to opposing viewpoints. Ask yourself, what evidence would convince me I'm wrong? 2. Anchoring bias. You rely too heavily on the first piece of information you receive, called the anchor, even if it's irrelevant. Example, a shirt is marked $300 but on sale for $150. You feel like you're getting a deal, even if the shirt was never worth $300 to begin with. Why it matters? Anchors skew your judgment. They become a reference point that's hard to shake. How to break it? Question the anchor. Ask, is this initial piece of information influencing me more than it should? 3. Availability heuristic. You judge something as more likely or important if it comes easily to mind. Example, after seeing news about plane crashes, you believe air travel is dangerous, even though statistically, it's far safer than driving. Why it matters? You confuse vivid with likely. How to break it? Look at actual data, not just vivid stories. Ask, is this common or just memorable? 4. The Dunning-Kruger effect. People with low ability often overestimate their competence, while highly skilled individuals may underestimate theirs. Example, someone with little knowledge on a topic speaks with overconfidence, while the true expert hesitates, knowing the complexity. Why it matters? It can cause poor decision-making and lead others to follow loud voices instead of wise ones. How to break it? Practice humility. Constantly ask, what don't I know? Seek feedback from credible sources. Point 5. Sunk cost fallacy. You continue investing in something, money, time, energy, simply because you've already invested a lot, even when it's clearly not working. Example, staying in a failing business or toxic relationship because of how much you've already put in. Why it matters? It traps you in the past, instead of helping you make decisions for the future. How to break it? Ask, If I were starting fresh today, would I choose this? Don't let past investments dictate future choices. Point 6. Groupthink. You go along with the group to maintain harmony, even if you disagree with the decision. Example, a team makes a poor business move because no one wanted to challenge the dominant opinion. Why it matters? It silences diverse ideas and often leads to poor, unexamined decisions. How to break it? Be the voice that asks questions. Encourage dissent. Create space for different opinions to be heard. Mental traps are not always obvious. The tricky part about biases is that they often operate below your awareness. You don't feel biased. You feel certain. That's what makes them dangerous. You're not thinking, I'm being biased right now. You're thinking, I'm just right. This is why critical thinkers develop habits of reflection and self-questioning. They assume that their first reaction might be wrong, and they take time to investigate. They don't just ask, what do I think? They ask, why do I think it? Tools to spot and disarm biases. Let's make this practical. Here are tools and practices you can use to spot your own biases and start thinking more clearly. Point 1. Use the opposite test. Ask yourself, what would someone on the opposite side of this belief say? What's their strongest argument? This forces you to consider a perspective outside your comfort zone. Point 2. Keep a thought journal. Write down strong emotional reactions or big decisions. Later, reflect on the assumptions behind them. Ask, was I being influenced by bias? 3. Slow down your thinking. Biases thrive in speed. Slow down. Take time to research, reflect, and review. Use questions like, what am I assuming? What's another possible explanation? What evidence would prove me wrong? 4. Ask others to challenge you. Find people who think differently. Ask them to critique your reasoning. Don't defend, just listen. The goal isn't to change your mind every time. It's to stretch your thinking and expose blind spots. Point 5. Embrace intellectual humility. Understand that being wrong is part of thinking well. The goal is not to be right. It's to discover what's true. You are not your thoughts. Here's a powerful reminder. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. You can question them, reshape them, and grow beyond them. Biases and mental traps don't make you weak. They make you human. What makes you powerful is your willingness to confront them. When you do that, when you step out of your own mental echo chamber, you open the door to deeper understanding, better decisions, and personal growth that's rooted in reality, not illusion. The takeaway: biases aren't bad. They're just automatic. But you have a choice. You can let your thoughts control you, or you can take control of your thoughts. You can stay trapped in the patterns of your past, or you can break free. The moment you begin spotting your biases is the moment you take a leap forward in your critical thinking journey. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most powerful tools a critical thinker can have, the ability to ask great questions. Because it's not always about having the right answers. It's about knowing how to uncover them. Let's move forward. Chapter 5. Question everything. The art of asking the right questions. If critical thinking were a tool, questions would be the sharp edge of the blade. Asking questions is how we cut through confusion, expose assumptions, and get closer to the truth. But not just any questions, the right questions. There is a kind of quiet power in someone who knows how to ask. Not because they have all the answers, but because they've learned how to reveal them, layer by layer, word by word. In this chapter, we'll explore the mindset behind effective questioning, the types of questions that lead to real insight, and how you can make this skill part of your everyday thinking. Why most people don't question. Most people don't question things deeply, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've never been taught how. From a young age, we're conditioned to memorize answers instead of investigate ideas, accept norms rather than challenge them, follow authority rather than probe deeper. As a result, we grow up believing that asking too many questions is a weakness, a threat, or even an annoyance. But this belief is exactly what prevents growth. In reality, great thinkers, scientists, leaders, innovators aren't great because they had all the answers. They were great because they refused to stop asking questions. The power of a question, a well-placed question, can shift your entire perspective, disarm an argument, uncover hidden motives, break open a limiting belief, spark innovation or change, deepen understanding in seconds. Great questions open the mind. They create space for reflection. They lead you into deeper levels of awareness and clarity. And most importantly, They guide your thinking away from judgment and toward discovery. Information versus insight. There's a difference between gathering information and gaining insight. Information-based questions sound like, what time does this start? Who said that? What happened next? They are important, but they only scratch the surface. Insight-based questions go deeper. Why does this matter? What assumption is behind this belief? What could I be missing here? How would someone else view this situation? Critical thinkers don't just collect data, they transform it into meaning. And that process always starts with the right question. The anatomy of a powerful question. So, what makes a question powerful? Here are 4 traits to look for. 1. Open-ended. Avoid yes/no questions unless clarity is needed. Open-ended questions invite reflection. Instead of, is this right? Ask, in what ways could this be right or wrong? 2. Non-leading. Avoid questions that assume an answer within them. Instead of, why are people so gullible? Ask, what makes people accept certain ideas without questioning them? 3. Focused on process, not just outcome. Great questions often ask how or why, because they explore reasoning and meaning. Instead of, what was the result? Ask, what led to that result? 4. Curious, not accusatory. Questions should seek to understand, not judge. Instead of, what's wrong with your thinking? Ask, what's the reasoning behind that belief? Essential questions every critical thinker should practice. Here are some core questions that you can use in your personal life, work, or decision-making. When evaluating information, what's the source of this information? What evidence supports this claim? Is there a credible counterargument? When making decisions, what problem am I really trying to solve? What are the risks of being wrong? What other options haven't I considered when dealing with people or emotions? What might this person's perspective be? Am I reacting emotionally or thinking clearly? What need is this feeling pointing to? When exploring your own beliefs, where did I learn this? Have I ever questioned this belief? What would it take to change my mind? The courage to question yourself. The most powerful questions aren't the ones we ask others. They're the ones we dare to ask ourselves. That it takes courage to say, what if I'm wrong? What am I avoiding by believing this? What part of this situation is my responsibility? These questions don't always feel comfortable, but they are essential for personal growth. Without them, we stay in the illusion of certainty. With them, we step into the clarity of truth. The habit of inquiry. To make questioning a habit, you need to practice inquiry, a mindset of curiosity. This means adopting an internal posture of, I don't know everything. I'm open to discovering more. There's always something beneath the surface. This isn't about doubting everything blindly. It's about staying open to learning more deeply and thinking more completely. Listening. The other half of a great question. A question without deep listening is just noise. When you ask a question, especially to someone else, pause. Give space. Listen with the intent to understand, not to reply. Most people listen to argue or interrupt. Critical thinkers listen to uncover truth. Let silence do its work. Sometimes, the best answers rise in the space between words. Practical exercise. The daily 3 questions. Here's a tool to sharpen your thinking. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what did I assume today without evidence? What question did I avoid asking, but should have? What belief did I challenge or reinforce today? Keep a journal of your answers. Over time, this reflection builds mental depth and self-awareness. Final thought. Questions are not just tools. They are keys that unlock understanding, wisdom, perspective, and possibility. They help you see what others miss. They help you grow past your limits. They help you stay grounded in clarity when the world pushes confusion. So ask boldly, ask curiously, ask often, and never stop asking, even when the answers are uncomfortable, because in the asking, you expand. And that's what critical thinking is all about. In the next chapter, we'll explore how logic and emotion, often seen as enemies, can actually work together to strengthen your decisions rather than weaken them. Let's continue the journey. Chapter 6. Logic and Emotion. A powerful partnership. For years, we've been told there's a war going on inside us. A battle between logic and emotion, as if one must always win at the cost of the other. Logic is portrayed as cold, calculating, rational. Emotion is seen as warm, reactive, and often unpredictable. And so we've been taught to distrust our feelings if we want to think clearly, to believe that logic is the only path to truth. But what if that's not true? What if logic and emotion aren't enemies, but partners? What if mastering your mind isn't about choosing one over the other, but learning how they can work together? In this chapter, we'll dismantle the false divide between logic and emotion. You'll discover how both play essential roles in critical thinking, and how your greatest strength comes when you align them, not separate them. The myth of pure rationality. Let's begin with a truth that many logical thinkers resist. No one is purely rational, not even the most data-driven scientist or analytic decision-maker. Emotions are always present, whether we acknowledge them or not. You don't simply absorb information and reach conclusions like a machine. You bring in your memories, experiences, fears, values, and desires. All of these influence your reasoning, and pretending they don't exist only makes your thinking less clear, not more. True critical thinkers don't deny emotion. They examine it, they understand it, and they use it wisely. What logic really is the ability to think in structured, reasoned ways. It's about identifying patterns, spotting inconsistencies, evaluating evidence, making sense of cause and effect. Logic helps us avoid being misled by illusion, bias, or emotion alone. It creates a mental framework to organize thoughts and make decisions with clarity. But logic has limits. It doesn't tell you what matters, only what makes sense. It can't assign value or meaning. That's where emotion enters. What emotion really is not the enemy of reason. It's the signal system of your mind. It tells you what you care about, what feels right or wrong, what aligns with your core beliefs, what brings you pain or joy. Emotion helps you prioritize. It brings urgency to decisions and depth to experiences. Without emotion, life would be flat, meaningless, directionless. In fact, studies of people with brain damage that impaired emotional processing show that even though their logic remains intact, they struggle to make even basic decisions. Without emotion, logic becomes paralyzed. The dangers of over-relying on either side. When logic dominates without emotion, you risk becoming detached or cold in relationships, making decisions that are technically sound but morally empty, ignoring intuition that could have guided you better. When emotion dominates without logic, you risk reacting impulsively or irrationally, believing things that feel good but aren't true, making choices you later regret when the emotional wave passes. The key isn't to shut one down, it's to balance them. To let logic guide your thinking and emotion guide your values. Emotion-informed, logic-tested. Here's a practical model for integrating the two. Let your emotions speak. What am I feeling right now? Why? What matters to me in this situation? Use logic to analyze. What are the facts? What's the likely outcome of each option? What patterns or inconsistencies are present? Test your emotion with reason. Is this feeling based on fact or assumption? Am I overreacting or underreacting? Test your reason with emotion. Does this decision align with what I truly care about? Will I regret this later? Not because it was wrong logically, but because it ignored something important emotionally. When you use this model, you begin to think with both your head and your heart. Emotional awareness leads to better logic. Most bad decisions don't happen because people lack logic. They happen because people ignored their emotions or misunderstood them. A person stays in a job they hate because they reason it pays well while ignoring the emotional toll. A person ends a relationship too quickly, believing they're being logical, when in truth, they're avoiding emotional vulnerability. A person buys something expensive because it feels good in the moment, then justifies it with post-purchase logic. If you aren't aware of your emotions, they'll run your decisions behind the scenes. But when you shine a light on them, they become a guide, not a trap. Emotional intelligence strengthens critical thinking. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ability to recognize your emotions, understand what they mean, manage your emotional responses, navigate emotions and others. High EQ doesn't mean you're soft or overly sensitive. It means you're mentally clear and emotionally grounded. Emotionally intelligent people are better thinkers because they aren't hijacked by every mood or manipulated by emotional tactics. They stay centered, even under pressure. If you want to become a better critical thinker, develop your EQ. It's not optional, it's essential. practical tools to align logic and emotion. Let's explore some simple ways to make this partnership real in your daily life. Point 1. Use emotion as a cue, not a command. When you feel a strong emotion, pause. Instead of acting on it, ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Is it pointing to something real or something imagined? What would a wise response look like? This gives your logical mind time to step in and analyze. Point 2. Map your values. Emotion often points to values, things you deeply care about. Write down your top 3 to 5 values. Then, when making decisions, ask, does this align with my values? Am I betraying what matters most for short-term logic? This keeps your reasoning aligned with your personal truth. Point 3. Practice reflective journaling after big decisions or emotional moments. Reflect, what did I feel? How did I think? What can I learn from the interaction of logic and emotion? Over time, this sharpens your awareness and improves future decision-making. Point 4. Slow the process when emotions run high. Never make life-changing decisions in emotional extremes. Emotions can inform, but give yourself time to think. Use this question. If I still feel this way tomorrow, will I still believe this decision makes sense? The wise mind. There's a concept in psychology called the wise mind, a state where logic and emotion are in harmony. Your logical mind provides clarity and structure. Your emotional mind provides depth and meaning. Your wise mind blends them to create powerful, conscious decisions. This is where critical thinking becomes transformative. Not cold, not reactive, but calm, focused, and intentional. Final thought, you don't have to choose between logic and emotion. You were designed to use both. When you ignore one, you think with half your mind. When you align both, you unlock the fullness of your human intelligence. Critical thinking is not about becoming robotic or emotionless. It's about becoming wise. And wisdom lives at the intersection of a clear mind and an open heart. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to apply this balance in real-world decision-making, whether it's personal, professional, or interpersonal. Because thinking well is only the beginning. Acting wisely is where the real mastery begins. Let's move forward. Chapter 7. Becoming a skeptic without becoming cynical. In the age of misinformation, manipulation, and noise, one of the most valuable traits you can develop is skepticism. That a true critical thinker doesn't believe everything they hear. They don't accept claims at face value. They ask, they question, they investigate. They look beneath the surface. But there's a fine line, one that many people unknowingly cross. When healthy skepticism turns into cynicism, clarity turns into bitterness, confidence turns into distrust, and instead of empowering your mind, you begin to close it. In this chapter, we'll explore how to become a healthy skeptic, someone who sees clearly, thinks independently, and questions wisely, without falling into cynicism, which drains your hope, trust, and mental energy. What is skepticism? Skepticism is not about disbelief. It's about disciplined doubt. It means asking, what's the evidence for this? Who benefits from this message? What are the alternatives? Is this consistent with what I know to be true? Skepticism doesn't reject ideas outright. It pauses before accepting them. It demands clarity before commitment. It prefers truth over comfort. That a skeptic sees the world not through rose-colored glasses, nor through a fog of distrust, but through the lens of rational curiosity. What is cynicism? Cynicism, on the other hand, is the reflexive belief that things are inherently bad, dishonest, or broken. The cynical mindset says, everyone lies. Nothing ever changes. People are only out for themselves. It's all rigged. Cynicism poses as intelligence, but it's often a disguised form of hopelessness. It feels smart because it's skeptical, but it actually shuts down inquiry. It assumes the worst and stops asking questions. Cynicism isn't built on careful thought. It's built on disappointment, mistrust, and emotional fatigue. The risk of critical thinking becoming toxic. When people begin their journey into critical thinking, they often go through a phase of extreme doubt. They realize how much misinformation exists. They see how biased the media can be. They uncover half-truths, distorted facts, and personal blind spots. And understandably, they begin to distrust everything. This is a natural stage. But staying there is dangerous. Because if you no longer trust anything, you can't build anything. You stop listening. You stop growing. You stop believing people can be honest, change, or improve. And worst of all, you stop believing you can. 2. That's not critical thinking. That's mental shutdown. Why skepticism is a strength. Let's return to the healthier side of the spectrum. Healthy skepticism means you ask questions. You don't settle for surface-level answers. You stay open. You look for better evidence, not just validation. You build filters, not walls. You let in the truth and block the noise. You avoid extremes. You resist being swept away by hype or fear. That it's not about being difficult. It's about being deliberate. Skeptics don't assume everything is fake. They just want to know what's real. Characteristics of healthy skeptics. Let's break it down even further. Here are some traits of someone who has mastered the art of healthy skepticism. 1. Curious, not combative. They don't challenge just to win. They challenge to learn. Their questions come from wonder, not arrogance. Point 2. Flexible, not fragile. They hold their beliefs with confidence, but not rigidity. If shown better evidence, they're willing to adjust. Point 3. Open, yet discerning. They don't believe everything, but they also don't reject everything. They examine, compare, and reflect before concluding. Point 4. Aware of bias. They recognize not only other people's biases, but also their own. They know how emotion, fear, and identity can cloud thinking. Point 5. Hopeful, not hopeless. They believe in the possibility of truth, progress, and goodness, even while acknowledging the world's flaws. How to practice healthy skepticism. Here are simple, practical ways to stay sharp without becoming cynical. 1. Always ask, how do I know? When you hear a claim, ask, what's the source? Is it reliable? Is it confirmed by other evidence? This one habit will change your relationship with information forever. Point 2. Investigate. Don't dismiss. Cynics reject. Skeptics research. If something seems off, dig deeper. Search for alternative views. Follow the evidence, not the emotions. Point 3. Stay humble. Remember, just because something feels wrong doesn't mean it is. And just because it aligns with your views doesn't make it true. A humble mind is a powerful 1.4. Avoid the echo chamber. Make it a habit to explore different perspectives. Read things you don't agree with. Listen without attacking. Exposure to varied viewpoints keeps your thinking honest. Point 5. Check the emotional tone. Cynicism often carries sarcasm, bitterness, or scorn. If your thoughts are filled with that energy, pause. Ask yourself, am I thinking or just reacting? Emotional resilience in thinking. A strong skeptic is also emotionally resilient. They've accepted that people will lie, but some will tell the truth. Systems can fail, but they can also evolve. Mistakes are common, but learning is always possible. This resilience allows you to face reality, good, bad, and complicated, without losing faith in your ability to navigate it. Skepticism becomes a tool, not a shield. It protects you, but it doesn't isolate you. When to let go of cynicism. If you feel yourself becoming cynical, ask, am I using disbelief to protect myself from disappointment? Do I feel more powerful by judging everything as fake or corrupt? What am I avoiding by assuming the worst? Cynicism can be seductive. It feels like control. But in truth, it's fear pretending to be wisdom. Let it go. Trade it for curiosity, clarity, and the courage to keep thinking for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Final thought. Being a skeptic doesn't mean closing your eyes. It means opening them wider. It means thinking carefully, deeply, and independently, without letting the weight of the world make you bitter. A skeptic searches for the truth. A cynic stops believing it exists. And here's the good news. You are not powerless. You are not lost in confusion. You are capable of discerning truth, understanding people, and forming your own judgments. You are capable of seeing through illusion without losing hope. That's not just critical thinking. That's critical living. In the next chapter, we'll shift into action. You'll learn how to apply your new thinking skills to everyday life, from relationships and work to decision-making and problem-solving. Because thinking well is the beginning, but living well is the goal. Let's continue. Chapter 8. Building daily habits that train your thinking. From critical thinking mastery. Transform your mindset for ultimate personal growth. Estimated narration time: 15-17 minutes. You don't become a master thinker in a day. You become one in your daily moments, in the quiet decisions, the small reflections, and the unseen practices you repeat over and over. Critical thinking is not just a skill, it's a discipline. And like any discipline, Whether it's physical, fitness, artistic expression, or emotional growth, it gets stronger with habit. In this chapter, we'll move from theory to practice. You'll learn how to design your day so that your thinking becomes sharper, clearer, more deliberate, and more resilient automatically. Because true mental strength isn't built in dramatic breakthroughs. It's built through consistent, thoughtful habits that shape the way you see the world and respond to it. The power of mental conditioning your mind is not fixed. It can be trained. It can be upgraded. It can be transformed. But just like the body, the mind needs regular conditioning. Most people don't do this. They let their thoughts run wild. They consume, react, scroll, and absorb without questioning. Over time, their thinking becomes lazy, rigid, or scattered. But you've already begun to take back control. And now it's time to build the mental habits that will support your growth every day. Why habits matter more than motivation. Motivation is temporary. Habits are automatic. You won't always feel like reflecting, questioning, or thinking critically. But if you've trained yourself through habit, you'll do it anyway, without needing to push. Habits make powerful thinking effortless. They move you from forced discipline to natural clarity. So the goal is not to become perfectly disciplined overnight. The goal is to install habits that think for you in the right direction. Foundational habits for critical thinkers. Let's explore key daily habits that will strengthen your mind and sharpen your thinking one day at a time. Point 1. Start your day with a thinking ritual. How you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Before you reach for your phone, take 5 minutes to check in with your mind. Ask, what am I thinking about this morning? What do I want to stay curious about today? What mental traps do I want to avoid? You don't need a long journaling session. Just a few intentional questions to engage your awareness. This anchors your mindset in presence, not passivity. Point 2. Question 1 assumption daily. Every day, choose one thing you believe and ask, why do I believe this? Where did this belief come from? Is it based on evidence, experience, or someone else's influence? It could be something small. Coffee helps me focus. Or something big. I'm not good at leadership. The goal isn't to tear down your beliefs. It's to understand them, to keep your mind from going stale, to remind yourself that truth is worth revisiting. Point 3. Practice micro pauses before reacting. One of the simplest yet most powerful habits. Pause before you react, especially in conversations, decisions, or emotional moments. Before responding, ask, what am I really reacting to? Is this response aligned with my best thinking? Even a 2-second pause creates space for critical thought. It breaks the automatic loop and invites intentionality. This enough, and the pause becomes part of your reflex. That's when you start to win the inner game. Point 4. Consume thoughtfully. What you feed your mind shapes how you think. Most people consume whatever appears in front of them. News, social media, opinions, gossip, but critical thinkers are selective. They ask, does this content expand my thinking or shrink it? Is this source trustworthy or just popular? Am I learning something or just reacting? Make it a habit to consume from diverse, high-quality sources. Not just what feels good, but what challenges and educates you. Point 5. Reflect on one decision each night. At the end of your day, reflect. What decision did I make today that mattered? What was my thought process behind it? What can I learn from it? This habit sharpens your decision-making. It shows you how emotion, logic, and bias played their parts. Over time, you'll start catching flawed thinking before it happens. Reflection is not about regret. It's about refinement. Point 6. Keep a thinking journal. This isn't just about feelings. It's about mental clarity. In your journal, regularly explore questions you're currently wrestling with, ideas that challenge your belief, situations where you reacted instead of responded, new things you've learned, and how they shift your perspective over time. Your journal becomes a map of your mental evolution. It helps you track how far you've come and where you still want to go. Point 7. Practice perspective taking every day. Put yourself in someone else's mental shoes. Ask, how might someone with a different background see this? What would a skeptic of my opinion say? What are the best arguments against my view? This habit protects you from narrow thinking. It expands your mental empathy and sharpens your logic. It's not about changing your mind. It's about seeing more clearly from more angles. Point 8. Create tech-free thinking time. Set aside at least 10 to 15 minutes a day where you're not consuming anything. No screens, no noise, just you and your thoughts. Let your mind wander. Reflect, organize, question, connect dots. This space allows deeper thinking to emerge. You'll notice patterns, ideas, or solutions that your distracted mind could never find. Thinking needs silence. Give it room to breathe. Stack habits. Don't overload, start small. Don't try to build all of these at once. Choose one or two that resonate and attach them to things you already do. For example, while drinking coffee, reflect on a belief. After brushing your teeth, journal one thought. Before bedtime, review one decision. During your commute, question an assumption. This habit stacking makes growth seamless. It integrates critical thinking into your life without disrupting it. Make it enjoyable. The best habits stick when they're meaningful and enjoyable. Don't treat critical thinking like a chore. Treat it like a mental workout, a form of personal excellence. Celebrate your progress. Notice when you catch a flawed thought or make a wiser decision. Reward yourself, not with perfection, but with presence, because the real reward isn't just sharper thinking. It's better living. Chapter 9. Decision-making like a philosopher and a CEO from Critical Thinking Mastery. Transform your mindset for ultimate personal growth. Estimated narration time. 17 minutes every day. You make countless decisions, some small, some life-changing. But how do you make those decisions? Do you act on impulse, habit, or pressure? Or do you approach decisions with intention, wisdom, and clarity? In this chapter, you'll learn how to make decisions like two powerful archetypes, the philosopher and the CEO. Why these two? Because the philosopher brings deep reflection, ethics, and perspective, while the CEO brings pragmatism, strategy, and action. When you combine these ways of thinking, you unlock a decision-making process that is both wise and effective, a process that transforms uncertainty into opportunity. The philosopher's approach. Reflection and wisdom. Philosophers are thinkers who dedicate themselves to exploring the big questions. What is good? What is true? What is meaningful? What should I do? Before acting, the philosopher pauses to reflect deeply. Key habits of philosopher-like decision-making. Seek clarity on values. Decisions aren't just about what works, but what matters. Clarify your core values to guide your choices. Consider the bigger picture. How will this decision affect not just you, but others? What are the long-term consequences? Question assumptions. What beliefs or biases are influencing this decision? Are they valid? Practice moral reasoning. Is this decision ethical? Does it align with your integrity? Embrace uncertainty. Philosophers understand that not every answer is certain and are comfortable with nuance. This approach helps avoid rash decisions based purely on emotion or pressure. It anchors choices in purpose and meaning. The CEO's approach, strategy, and execution. CEOs operate in the world of results. They make decisions with pressure, complexity, and limited information. Yet they succeed because they combine clear strategy with decisive action. Key habits of CEO-like decision-making. Define clear objectives. What is the goal? What outcome are you aiming for? Analyze risks and benefits. What are the potential rewards and costs? What's the probability of success? Prioritize decisions. Focus on what matters most. Avoid analysis paralysis by deciding on high-impact issues first. Make timely decisions. Understand when perfection is the enemy of progress. Take informed action without unnecessary delay. Delegate and collaborate. Use your resources wisely. Seek input from experts and empower others. This approach ensures decisions lead to forward movement, adaptability, and effective results. Integrating philosopher and CEO mindsets. You don't have to choose one or the other. True mastery is blending these two modes of thinking. Here's how. Start with reflection. Take time to clarify your values and the purpose behind your decision. Follow with analysis. Gather facts, assess risks, and outline options. Move to strategy. Decide on the best course aligned with your goals. Act decisively. Commit to your choice and execute with confidence. Reflect and adapt. After action, review the outcomes, learn, and adjust. This cycle is continuous. It builds not only better decisions, but stronger thinking muscles, tools for wise decision making. 1. Decision matrix. A decision matrix helps you evaluate options based on multiple criteria. List your options across the top. List the criteria important to you down the side, e.g., cost, time, impact, ethics. Score each option against each criterion. Multiply scores by priority weights. The option with the highest total score wins. This tool brings structure and objectivity to complex decisions. Point 2. The pre-mortem technique before deciding. Imagine the decision failed. Why? What went wrong? This technique uncovers hidden risks and blind spots. It helps you plan contingencies and avoid costly mistakes. Point 3. The October 10th 10 rule. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years? This perspective helps balance short-term emotions with long-term consequences. Point 4. Seek diverse perspectives. Consult people who think differently. Get input from those with varied experiences and expertise. This diversity helps you avoid groupthink and blind spots. Overcoming common decision-making pitfalls. 1. Analysis paralysis. Overthinking can prevent action. Combat this by setting deadlines and focusing on key priorities. Point 2. Emotional hijacking. Strong emotions can cloud judgment. Use the pause technique to calm your mind before deciding. Point 3. Confirmation bias. Avoid seeking only information that supports your initial preference. Look for disconfirming evidence. Point 4. Overconfidence. Be humble about what you know. Plan for uncertainty and be ready to pivot. Embracing decision-making as growth. Every decision is an opportunity, not just to shape your life, but to grow your thinking. Mistakes aren't failures. They're data points, feedback, lessons. When you adopt a mindset of learning, decisions become less scary and more empowering. Remember, even the best leaders and thinkers don't get it right every time. What sets them apart is their ability to reflect honestly, adapt quickly, keep moving forward. Chapter 10. Thinking critically in a noisy, misinformation-filled world. We live in an era of unprecedented information. At our fingertips are endless streams of news, opinions, data, images, videos, and social chatter. But with this flood comes a profound challenge. How do you think clearly when the noise is deafening and misinformation is everywhere? In this chapter, we'll explore practical strategies to protect your mind and sharpen your critical thinking amid today's chaos. We'll uncover how to navigate fake news, bias, propaganda, and overwhelming opinions while staying grounded in truth and reason. Because critical thinking today isn't optional, it's essential survival. The challenge of the modern information landscape. The digital age has democratized information. Anyone can share ideas, facts, or stories instantly. That's powerful, but it also means falsehoods spread as fast as facts. Opinions masquerade as truths. Algorithms feed us content designed to trigger emotion, not clarity. Echo chambers reinforce beliefs without challenge. Deepfakes and manipulated media blur reality. In this environment, your brain faces constant bombardment from all sides, making it easy to become overwhelmed, confused, or manipulated. Why critical thinking is your best defense. Critical thinking is the mental shield that filters noise from signal. It helps you identify credible sources, detect logical fallacies, recognize emotional manipulation, avoid bias traps, stay curious and open-minded, make informed decisions despite uncertainty. Without it, you risk becoming a passive consumer of misinformation, or worse, an unintentional spreader of falsehoods. Spotting misinformation and manipulation. Here are some common tactics used to deceive or mislead, and how to spot them. 1. Emotional manipulation. Content designed to provoke anger, fear, or outrage. If something makes you feel extremely emotional, pause and question, what is this trying to make me feel? Is it based on facts or fear? 2. Confirmation bias. Exploitation. Information tailored to what you already believe, reinforcing views without challenge. Ask yourself, am I only seeing one side? Have I sought out opposing views? 3. Cherry-picking facts. Presenting selective data while ignoring contradictory evidence. Look for context around the facts, whether alternative data exists. 4. False authority. Quoting people as experts without credentials or relevant expertise. Check, who is the source? What are their qualifications? 5. Strawman arguments. Misrepresenting an opponent's view to make it easier to attack. Be cautious of oversimplifications, exaggerations. Building your personal information filters. To stay sane and sharp, you need personal filters that screen what you consume. Point 1. Choose trusted sources. Build a list of reliable, fact-checked and well-respected news outlets, researchers, and experts. Prefer primary sources over summaries or social media posts. Point 2. Diversify your media diet. Consume perspectives from different countries, political leanings, and cultural viewpoints. This broadens your understanding and protects against echo chambers. Point 3. Limit social media consumption. Set boundaries on time spent on platforms designed to maximize engagement, not truth. Use apps or settings that restrict distracting or harmful content. Point 4. Use fact-checking tools when in doubt. Consult fact-checking websites that verify claims. Learn how to verify images, videos, and documents independently, strengthening your skeptical mindset. Healthy skepticism is your anchor in misinformation seas. Don't believe everything you read, but don't dismiss everything either. Always ask, what is the evidence, and who benefits from this message? Question your own biases as well as others. Be comfortable saying, I don't know enough yet to decide. Mental hygiene practices, just like physical hygiene protects your body, mental hygiene protects your mind. Take regular breaks from news and social media to avoid burnout. Practice mindfulness to notice when your emotions are being hijacked. Engage in discussions with trusted people who challenge you respectfully. Write down your questions and thoughts to clarify your own reasoning. Handling overwhelm and decision fatigue. Information overload can paralyze you. When this happens, prioritize what truly matters to you. Focus on topics relevant to your life and goals. Use the 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes, address it now. Otherwise, schedule time later. Accept that you can't know everything. Good enough information can be enough to decide. The role of critical thinking and civic responsibility. Informed citizens are the backbone of healthy societies. Be why thinking critically. You resist manipulation by politicians, marketers, and special interests. You make voting and civic participation decisions based on facts, not slogans. You contribute to conversations that uplift truth and reason. Your mind is not just a personal tool, it's a public good. Final thought: in a world flooded with noise and misinformation, critical thinking is your lifeline. That it's the practice of questioning, verifying, reflecting, and discerning. Not to be cynical or overwhelmed, but to be clear, confident, and empowered. The world won't get quieter, simpler, or easier to understand anytime soon. But your mind can become stronger, sharper, and more resilient. You can become a beacon of clarity in the storm. In the next and final chapter, we'll bring everything together, summarizing key lessons and setting you up for a lifetime of critical thinking mastery. Let's finish strong. Chapter 11. How to win arguments without creating enemies. Arguments and disagreements are inevitable. They happen in families, workplaces, friendships, and even online. But how you approach arguments can make all the difference between building, understanding, or burning bridges. In this chapter, you'll learn how to win arguments thoughtfully and respectfully, in a way that strengthens relationships, invites collaboration, and leaves both parties feeling heard and valued. Understanding what winning really means first. Redefine what it means to win an argument. Winning is not about crushing the other person, proving you're right at all costs, humiliating or dominating. Winning is about communicating your ideas clearly and persuasively, listening to understand the other person's point of view, finding common ground or respectful disagreement, keeping the door open for future dialogue. When you approach arguments this way, you win both ideas and relationships. The psychology behind arguments. Arguments often escalate because of emotional triggers. Feeling attacked or dismissed sparks defensiveness. Ego investment. We tie our identity to our beliefs. Losing feels like losing ourselves. Poor listening. People focus on what they want to say next, not what's being said. Polarization. Seeing the other as enemy rather than human. Understanding these factors helps you stay calm and empathetic. Essential for productive arguments. The art of active listening. Winning arguments begins with listening deeply. Give full attention, put away distractions. Use body language that shows openness. Nod, maintain eye contact. Paraphrase or summarize what the other said to confirm understanding. Ask clarifying questions to explore their reasoning. When people feel truly heard, they're more likely to listen back. Speak to be understood, not just to respond. Communicate your ideas clearly. Use I statements to express your perspective without blaming. I feel, rather than you always. Keep your tone calm and respectful. Avoid absolute words like always or never. Present evidence or reasons calmly instead of attacking beliefs. Share personal stories to connect emotionally. Your goal is clarity and connection, not confrontation. Find and highlight common ground, even in disagreement. There's often shared values or goals. Identify what you both agree on. Emphasize these areas before discussing differences. This builds trust and reduces defensiveness. For example, we both want what's best for the team, or I see that we care about honesty. Ask open-ended. Questions encourage the other person to think and explain by asking, what makes you see it that way? How did you come to that conclusion? What concerns do you have about my view? This shows curiosity, not challenge, and can reveal new insights. Manage your emotions, stay calm, even if the other person doesn't. Practice deep breathing to reduce stress. Remind yourself that disagreement is normal, not personal. If emotions rise, suggest a pause or break. Emotional control keeps the argument constructive. Use the agree to disagree strategy sometimes. The best outcome is respectful disagreement. Acknowledge differing views without judgment. Express appreciation for the conversation and perspective. Leave the door open for future dialogue. This preserves relationships and honors complexity. Avoid logical fallacies. Winning arguments depends on sound reasoning. Avoid ad hominem, attacking the person instead of the argument. Straw man, misrepresenting their position to knock it down. False dilemma, presenting only two options when more exist. Appeal to emotion, manipulating feelings instead of facts. Slippery slope, claiming one event will inevitably lead to extreme consequences. Focus on logic and respect. Practice empathy and humility. Recognize that everyone's beliefs come from their experiences. You may not have all the answers. Changing minds takes time, not force. Humility opens space for growth, for both sides. Turn arguments into opportunities. View disagreements as chances to deepen understanding, strengthen relationships, improve. Your communication skills refine your own thinking. When you adopt this mindset, arguments lose their sting and become stepping stones to wisdom. Chapter 12. Mastering intellectual humility and open-mindedness in the journey of critical thinking. Two qualities stand out as pillars of lasting growth: intellectual humility and open-mindedness. These traits might sound simple, but they are profoundly transformative. They allow you to learn continuously, adapt gracefully, and engage with the world more wisely. In this chapter, we'll explore how to cultivate intellectual humility and open-mindedness so your mind remains sharp, flexible, and ready for new truths throughout your life. What is intellectual humility? Intellectual humility means recognizing the limits of your knowledge. It is the willingness to admit when you don't know something or when you might be wrong, that it's the opposite of arrogance or defensiveness. Humility in intellect is not weakness. It's strength, the strength to face uncertainty without fear, to embrace questions without anxiety, and to learn without ego. Why intellectual humility matters: it frees you from the burden of always having to be right. It opens doors to new ideas, perspectives, and discoveries. It builds trust with others as you demonstrate honesty and openness. It prevents the blind spots that come from overconfidence. It fosters curiosity and lifelong learning. Without humility, your thinking becomes rigid, brittle, and resistant to growth. Signs you may need more intellectual humility: you avoid admitting mistakes or changing your mind. You dismiss others' opinions without consideration. You feel threatened by differing viewpoints. You rush to defend your beliefs at all costs. You equate being wrong with personal failure. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to change. What is open-mindedness? Open-mindedness is the willingness to consider new ideas and perspectives, even when they challenge your current beliefs. It doesn't mean accepting everything blindly, but rather being curious and receptive. Open-minded people listen actively to opposing views, weigh evidence fairly, are willing to update their beliefs when warranted, avoid snap judgments. The relationship between humility and open-mindedness work hand in hand. When you're intellectually humble, you naturally become more open-minded because you accept that your knowledge is incomplete. When you're open-minded, you practice humility by valuing other viewpoints. Together, they create a mindset that is both discerning and flexible. How to cultivate intellectual humility. 1. Practice self-reflection regularly. Ask yourself, what do I really know? Or might I be wrong? What assumptions am I making? Journaling your thoughts can help uncover blind spots. Point 2. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities instead of fearing error. See it as a chance to improve your thinking. Remember, being wrong sometimes is a natural part of growth. Point 3. Welcome constructive criticism. Seek feedback from trusted people who challenge your ideas respectfully. Listen openly without defensiveness. Point 4. Avoid overgeneralizing from limited experience. Don't let a small set of experiences define your whole worldview. Be cautious about jumping to conclusions. How to foster open-mindedness. 1. Expose yourself to diverse perspectives. Read books, watch documentaries, and engage with people whose views differ from yours. Point 2. Ask questions instead of judging. When you encounter a new idea, ask, why do they believe this? What evidence supports it? Could this be true? 3. Delay snap judgments. Give yourself time to process before accepting or rejecting new information. Point 4. Engage in healthy debate. See conversations as opportunities to explore ideas, not to win or lose. Overcoming barriers to humility and openness. Ego and identity. Your beliefs can feel tied to who you are. To grow, learn to separate ideas from your sense of self. Fear of uncertainty. Accept that some questions have no easy answers. Embrace ambiguity as part of learning. Social pressure. Be willing to think independently, even if it means disagreeing with peers. The benefits of mastering these qualities. You become more adaptable in a rapidly changing world. Your relationships deepen through respectful dialogue. Your thinking becomes more nuanced and sophisticated. You cultivate wisdom, the ability to balance confidence with doubt. Chapter 13. Teaching others to think critically. Critical thinking is a powerful skill, not just for your own growth, but for the impact you can have on others. When you teach others to think critically, you're helping them unlock their potential, make wiser decisions, and navigate life with confidence. But teaching critical thinking isn't about lecturing or simply sharing information. It's about inspiring curiosity, modeling the process, and creating environments where questioning and reflection thrive. In this chapter, we'll explore how to effectively teach critical thinking to friends, family, colleagues, or even larger groups. Why teaching critical thinking matters. It builds stronger relationships through deeper conversations. It empowers people to solve problems independently. It creates ripple effects, helping communities, workplaces, and societies become wiser. It encourages open dialogue and reduces conflict born from misunderstanding. Your role as a teacher is an investment in a smarter, more thoughtful world. Step 1. Model critical thinking in your own life. People learn more from what you do than what you say. Share your thought process openly. Explain how you analyze information, question assumptions, and make decisions. Show humility by admitting when you don't know something or when you've changed your mind. Demonstrate curiosity and willingness to explore new ideas. This transparency builds trust and encourages others to adopt similar habits. Step 2. Encourage questions and curiosity. Create a safe space where questions are welcomed, not judged. Respond positively to inquiries, even challenging ones. Encourage why and how questions. Use questions to guide others to discover answers rather than giving them directly. Praise curiosity and effort, not just correctness. Curiosity is the seed of critical thinking. Step 3. Teach how to identify bias and assumptions. Help others recognize mental shortcuts and blind spots. Introduce common cognitive biases in simple terms. Use real-life examples or stories. Encourage reflection on personal beliefs and where they come from. Practice spotting biases in media, conversations, or decisions together. This awareness creates mental clarity and openness. Step 4. Practice reasoning and logic exercises together. Engage in activities that develop analytical skills. Analyze news, articles, or advertisements for bias or faulty logic. Debate friendly topics, focusing on evidence and respect. Solve puzzles or brain teasers that require logic. Reflect on decision-making scenarios, exploring alternatives. Active practice cements critical thinking habits. Step 5. Teach the art of asking good questions. Guide others to refine their questioning. Encourage open-ended questions over yes/no queries. Promote what if and how might thinking. Teach them to ask for evidence and examples. Show how questions can reveal assumptions or gaps. Good questions lead to deeper understanding. Step 6. Foster reflection and metacognition. Encourage thinking about thinking. After discussions or decisions, ask, what did we learn? What could we do differently next time? Introduce journaling or group reflections. Promote awareness of emotional influences on thinking. Reflection strengthens self-awareness and growth. Step 7. Be patient and compassionate. Critical thinking develops over time. People learn at different paces. Celebrate small wins and progress. Avoid criticism that shuts down curiosity. Be supportive when mistakes happen. They're valuable lessons. Adapt your approach to each person's style and readiness. Teaching with kindness creates lasting impact. Overcoming challenges in teaching. Critical thinking resistance and defensive reactions. Some may feel threatened by questioning or changing beliefs. Approach gently. Emphasize learning, not criticism. Build rapport and trust first. Complexity and overwhelm. Break down concepts into manageable parts. Use relatable examples. Avoid jargon and abstract theories early on. Diverse backgrounds and beliefs. Respect different viewpoints and cultural contexts. Focus on process over specific conclusions. Encourage respectful dialogue. The ripple effect of teaching. Critical thinking. When you teach others, you multiply the impact exponentially. Students teach peers. Conversations improve communities. Better thinking fosters healthier decisions and innovation. You become a catalyst for positive change beyond yourself. Conclusion: your mind upgraded. Now what? Congratulations that you've journeyed through the fascinating, challenging, and deeply rewarding world of critical thinking, that you've uncovered how your mind works, learned to spot biases, mastered the art of questioning, balanced logic with emotion, and built habits that sharpen your mental edge. You've explored how to decide wisely, communicate clearly, navigate misinformation, argue respectfully, embrace humility, and teach others. Your mind is now upgraded, stronger, clearer, more agile. But what comes next? Critical thinking is a lifelong journey. Critical thinking isn't a destination. It's a way of life. IT requires constant attention, practice, and refinement. The skills you've learned here will serve you well, but only if you keep using them. Growth happens in daily decisions, conversations, and reflections. The choice is yours: to let your mind settle into old patterns, or to keep pushing forward, evolving, and expanding. Keep the flame of curiosity alive. Curiosity is the engine of critical thinking. Never stop asking questions about the world, yourself, and others. Seek out new ideas, challenge your assumptions, and welcome uncertainty as a sign of growth. The more curious you remain, the sharper your mind becomes. Stay humble, stay open. Remember the power of intellectual humility and open-mindedness. They protect you from rigidity and closed-mindedness. 2. Of the greatest enemies of clear thinking: admit what you don't know. Listen deeply. Change your mind when the evidence calls for it. This mindset will keep your thinking fresh and resilient. Use your thinking for purpose and impact. Critical thinking is not just for personal gain, that it's a tool to make better decisions that align with your values, influence others with respect and clarity, solve complex problems in your work and community, stand firm in truth amidst confusion and noise. Let your upgraded mind serve your highest goals and the greater good. Build a supportive environment. Surround yourself with people and resources that challenge and inspire you. Engage in meaningful conversations. Read widely and diversely. Avoid echo chambers and misinformation traps. Practice teaching and learning together. A strong environment fuels sustained growth. Embrace mistakes and feedback. No thinker is perfect. You will make errors and face setbacks. Welcome them as essential parts of your journey. Use feedback to course correct and deepen your insight. Every stumble is a step forward when you learn from it. Your role as a critical thinker in the world a world flooded with information, opinions, and noise. Your critical mind is a beacon. You have the power to make sense of complexity, promote reason over reaction, foster understanding instead of division, inspire others to think and grow. Your mind's upgrade is not just for you. It's a gift to those around you. Final call to action today: commit to making critical thinking your daily practice. Set aside time to reflect and question. Speak with clarity and listen with empathy. Challenge your beliefs and embrace new truths. Teach and inspire others along the way. Remember, the world needs minds like yours, minds willing to think deeply, act wisely, and grow continuously. Thank you for embarking on this journey. Your critical thinking mastery is just beginning to go forward with confidence, curiosity, and courage. Your upgraded mind is your greatest asset. Use it well.